My name is Emily. I've always enjoyed working with my hands, and lately, at the age of 38, I've become hooked on making hair accessories for women. Since I don't wear them myself, my house is overflowing with these creations, so I've started selling them on a flea market app. It's a fun activity that blends hobbies with some practical benefits. Now, I'd like to share an experience from about 10 years ago. When I was 26, I married my husband, Dave, who was the same age. The first 2 years of marriage were relatively peaceful, I think. But after the second year, things started to get a bit complicated, especially with my mill, Samantha. Ever since our engagement, she had been expressing her excitement about having grandchildren. Having lost her husband early, she seemed to have overcome her loneliness by looking forward to grandchildren. Evident even during our wedding ceremony, she would say things like, "One day, you'll have a grandchild leaving home like this. Prepare yourselves for those feelings." And even some rather indelicate remarks like, "Make sure to work hard at it once you're settled in marriage." I understood her feelings, and even though it was slightly uncomfortable, I managed to laugh it off with a "You're a bit early." However, her recent behavior is noticeably different. The first sign was a phone call. Of course, the caller was Samantha, which was unusual in itself. We live in separate households after all. We've always maintained a reasonable distance from my in-laws, interacting mainly during Thanksgiving and Christmas, and occasionally when necessary.
Hey Emily, do you know about coral?
Coral, like from the sea? Yes, I'm aware of it, I replied, puzzled by such an out-of-the-blue question. Even if she had asked about samba, I would still wonder what she wanted.
Coral is said to be a stone of childbirth. You know, I just saw it on a TV shopping channel. How about buying some?
No, thanks. I don't really wear jewelry other than my wedding ring, especially since I'm a stay-at-home wife. I had no intention of buying coral from a TV shopping channel, nor did I have a particular interest in it. Her sudden suggestion baffled me.
What a pity. It's supposed to be great for fertility.
It took me a moment to realize that she was seriously suggesting coral for the sake of having grandchildren. If she was serious, that's a rather roundabout way of addressing fertility. She then spent an hour talking about the experiences of motherhood before finally ending the call. It was exhausting to think this was all driven by her desire for grandchildren. Maybe I should search online stores for a doll that looks like a grandchild. I was pondering such a silly idea while browsing online stores, thinking how tiresome it would be if she kept talking like this. A week later, Samantha visited our house. Samantha, knowing that Dave was off work, was overly delighted.
Just look at this. Names like Madison and Ethan are popular these days.
She showed me a happy baby naming dictionary, sending chills down my spine. We haven't even conceived yet. Was she trying to name an imaginary baby? I almost blurted this out but swallowed my words.
But you know, I saw this name online, written as Maple but pronounced Mayporu. Combined with our last name, Morrison, it's the best. Very auspicious.
Wouldn't naming a child Maple be a nightmare in a hospital waiting room, regardless of good fortune? It seems my mother-in-law overthought naming the imaginary baby, ending up with a name that's both too old-fashioned and peculiar, trying to incorporate modern trends. If this is the case with an imaginary baby, a real baby might lead her to say something like, "A shining life, the center of everyone's attention. Pikachu." I felt a chill again, worrying about the future of this nearly named Maple.
Starting today, Emily, you should drink this.
She thrust a box at me, labeled in a language I couldn't identify. It looked suspicious from the get-go.
This here, I bought it online. It's tea mixed with 40 different kinds of herbs, all said to be good for pregnancy.
That explained it. The box, even unopened, was giving off a strange smell, sour and bitter. I hadn't tasted it, but I had a feeling that drinking it might cost me my sense of taste in exchange for a pregnancy. I glanced at Dave for help, but he didn't catch on and just said, "You got this, Emily. You got this, Emily," as if I can reproduce asexually. I'm not a parthenogenetic creature. I kept quiet, though. Saying anything wouldn't change the situation. Then, from her enormous bag, Samantha pulled out a stork pattern jacket that looked like it came from some tourist shop in Florida, a ladybug necklace, a crane-printed Asian-style t-shirt, and a peacock-colored skirt. The shoes were bright red flats. If I wore all these, I'd be a walking fertility symbol from head to toe. But talk about a fashion emergency. Walking outside in that outfit would either get me stopped by the cops or part crowds like Moses parting the Red Sea. Nobody would come near me. This was beyond tomboy style. It was a disaster. To top it off, she left behind an incredibly creepy demon mask, saying people who carried this had children. She got it from some fortune teller at a local festival, but the design looked more likely to make children cry than anything else. She'd definitely been scammed. After she left, I was just dumbfounded, staring at all these ridiculous gifts. Then, half a month later, I caught a nasty cold, the first in years. A fool seldom catches a cold, they say, and I don't usually get sick. But I guess everything happening lately wore me out. As I was coughing, I looked at the fertility mask Dave had displayed. It was unsettling, staring right back at me. It felt like it was sucking the life out of me. Just then, the doorbell rang, echoing like a death knell. It was a weekday and odd time for visitors. I wasn't expecting any packages. And I'm not part of any community group, so it had to be someone I knew. Feeling a chill, possibly from the fever or the mask's creepiness, I checked the intercom and saw Samantha on the screen. The end flashed through my mind.
Emily, oh no, are you sick?
Yay. I sniffled, reluctantly opening the door to let her in.
Then it's perfect timing. Let's go to church now for a fertility blessing.
Huh? My voice was hoarse, making my response unintentionally gruff, but she didn't seem to mind.
When you're weak, that's when you feel the push of divine support the most. You'll be blessed with endless fertility power.
She sounded like a character from a kid's adventure comic. I bestow upon you the power to shape the future. Now go forth. All I wanted was to go to bed. What's with this endless fertility power? Am I expected to pop out kids nonstop? I'm really not feeling well, and I wouldn't want to get you sick, so maybe we should just. I wanted to tell her to go home, but chose my words carefully. She, however, wasn't deterred at all.
I don't mind catching a cold. If it means getting a grandchild, it's worth it.
It seemed she was willing to risk her health, even her life, for the sake of grandchildren. Well, that's something. In her mind, she might not live to see her grandchild at this rate. No, but...
Let's go.
And dragged me, still in my pajamas, to a taxi she had waiting. Going to church in pajamas seems like mocking God. If it were me, I'd take away all their power. Suddenly, I couldn't muster the strength to resist, and there I was, off to a fertility prayer in the dead of winter. Predictably, my fever spiked when we got back home. Dave came home just in time, so I explained the situation and said, "I'm not up for eating. Sorry, but you'll have to make your own dinner."
What? I come home tired, and this is what I get.
"I'm tired too, thanks to your mom," I replied bluntly, too exhausted to sugarcoat my words. I just let it all out.
"Well, I guess I have no choice."
No choice? What's that supposed to mean? And that sound, it's annoying. I was too sick and frustrated to argue further. Speaking was a struggle, what with all the coughing. I couldn't deal with him anymore. The fever subsided eventually, but the cough lingered, leading to a diagnosis of borderline pneumonia. I'm sure that fertility blessing was to blame, and I focused on getting treatment to relieve myself of this ordeal. Thankfully, about a month later, I was almost back to my usual self, although not fully recovered. I thought I could finally return to normal life. But then Samantha showed up again. Darn it, Dave carelessly let her in. Our home's security might as well be non-existent with him opening the door so casually. It's enough to make me cry. As soon as she stepped into the living room, she looked at me and asked,
"So, did my cute grandchild come into being?"
"Yay, right." In her eyes, I must be like some incredible being capable of asexual reproduction. Unaffected by pneumonia or anything else, just popping out babies left and right. And thanks to the fertility power she talked about. But of course, that's not how it works. I'm sorry to say, but I've been too unwell to even think about trying for a baby, and it hasn't been that long since then. Biologically speaking, it's pretty unlikely.
Oh dear, that attitude. I've always thought you weren't keen enough on having children. You need to be more enthusiastic.
If she pressured me anymore, my enthusiasm would only fade further. But I didn't say that.
I've been waiting for a grandchild for so long. If this keeps up, I might not be around to see it. Maybe you're infertile. If that's the case, get a divorce right away. I'll find a new daughter-in-law to give me Maple.
Maple, it's already decided. I was taken aback, but this seemed like an opportunity. Okay, let's get a divorce. What? Dave looked shocked.
Great, I'm glad I brought a divorce paper. Hurry up and sign it.
All right.
"No, wait, Emily, Mom."
It was a strange situation. I was readily agreeing to a divorce, Samantha was pushing for it, and Dave was panicking. When Samantha and I simultaneously asked Dave if he had any objections, he fell silent. And just like that, we were heading for a divorce. Honestly, I'd been feeling fed up with Dave not taking my side, and since the cold incident, I'd been considering divorce anyway. 3 years later, while walking down the street, I heard someone shout, "Ah!" I turned to see Dave and Samantha standing there.
Emily, what's this all about?
Samantha was pointing at something, and I followed her gaze, realizing what she meant. "I'm pregnant," After our divorce, when I told people about it, an old coworker, Jack from my previous job, asked me out for a meal. I met up with him again just to clear my head, without much thought. But he confessed that he had always liked me but couldn't say anything because we were colleagues, and then I got married. At first, I was reluctant about romance, but gradually I thought, let's think positively about this, and we started dating. Then, it all happened quickly. I've liked you for a long time. Will you marry me? And just like that, we got married at an astonishing speed, followed by a speedy pregnancy. On that day, I was walking with Jack's mother, my current mill, Olivia. Who are these people? She asked. Oh, that's my former husband, Dave, and mill, Samantha, I replied. She nodded understandingly, then looked at them with a certain expression. How can this be? Weren't you infertile, Emily? Samantha stammered. Dave looked pale beside her. Well, who knows? Maybe all those lucky charms you gave me worked with the right person, in the right family. Is this the power of fertility? I smiled slyly as I said that.
No way, that's impossible. We couldn't have a child, no matter what we did back then. Or you doing something to prevent it. Or you deceiving us.
No, that's not it. But, well, now I'm pregnant and incredibly happy. Maybe back then, various stresses made it difficult for me to conceive.
What's that supposed to mean? We were the stress.
It's not just that. There could be other reasons, right? Like what you mentioned earlier, Mom.
What? You mean?
I didn't answer but just smiled at Dave. His face had gone from pale to downright white. What's going on, Dave? Samantha pressed him.
I didn't do anything. It wasn't me. Emily was the one with the problem.
I actually went and got tested for infertility. I never told you the results, though. What? Dave looked utterly dumbfounded, as if a light push could knock him over. What a fool. You never got tested, and now here I am, pregnant in my new marriage. As I smiled, Samantha let out a wail and slumped to the ground. Too bad, Mom. Looks like grandchildren might be tough for you. Maybe you'll meet your maker before that. How about it? Maybe find a new son. I threw back at her the same things she used to say to me. You were the one with the fertility issue, she accused. Dave kept repeating, it's not me. I'm not infertile. Dave, remember when you had MIMS before we got married? You know that MIMS in adult men can lead to other complications, including infertility, right? Actually, after that, you did have some issues, didn't you? You should have gotten properly checked out at a good clinic to see if you were infertile. After a moment of stunned silence, Samantha screamed, it was you all along. Give me back my grandchild, Maple. But Maple never existed in the first place. Over 3 years, this imaginary baby had apparently become very real in her mind. She and Dave got into a huge argument, shouting infertile, and other things I won't repeat, while he just kept repeating, am I really infertile? Watching their complete meltdown, I was reminded how glad I was to have left that house. Well, feel free to sort out your family feud. I'm going back to my wonderful, warm home with Olivia. Oh, and by the way, she's going to choose the baby's name. Sounds good, right? As I said this, Samantha was wailing about how the baby was supposed to be hers. It was embarrassing, so I just ignored her and left. Some time later, Dave reached out, asking, can we start over even with the child? At this point, it was just ridiculous. Eventually, he was tested and found to be infertile. I knew it all along. This led Samantha to despair and suggest he marry a woman with a young child. Her comments were downright kidnapper-like. "Officer, that's the guy. Please arrest her." But Dave wasn't interested in any woman with children, except for me, apparently. So he set his sights on me again, but I wasn't having any of it. In the end, Samantha disowned him, and he accepted it, blaming everything on her. Dave seemed to accept that all his misfortunes were due to his mother, saying he didn't want anything to do with such parents. But disowning in that house just meant estrangement, as they were the only family each other had. From their messages, it seemed they both wanted to reconcile but were too proud, thinking, "Can't go back until I have a child and a wife." But I doubt that day will ever come. Even 10 years later, seeing Dave on social media, he's still single. His hair, or rather, the lack thereof, seemed to be a testament to his stress, growing thinner by the day. It was more like a mutual disownment, or should I say thinning hair. He'd be better off going bald, but I guess losing hair and seed is a bit too much for him. He's desperately clinging to his remaining strands. Samantha, after cutting ties with Dave, seemed to be living a lonely and frail old age with no one to rely on. If only they'd swallow their pride and make up. Meanwhile, Jack and I have been blessed with 3 daughters. The first child was named by Olivia, the second by my Phil, Bob, and the third by Jack and me. Each of them was named Skylar, Autumn, and Ivy. Since we have 3 daughters, we chose names inspired by the seasons they were born in. I'm really relieved that everyone had a similar sense of naming, so we avoided any tragedies like the whole Maple situation. Having 3 kids close in age was challenging at first, but my in-laws helped with childcare, and Jack, despite his busy job, took on most of the household chores, so I didn't feel stressed. Jack's income is significantly better than Dave's, and we're doing so well that we live in the same high-rise building as my in-laws, just in the opposite unit. It's an ideal environment for raising our children. Maybe that's why we have so many kids. If I may say so, it feels like we're living the winner's life now. Just kidding. Our daughters are tomboys, always getting into fights with the neighborhood boys, but they're just so adorable. It was actually them who inspired me to start making hair accessories. Tomorrow, we're all going to the amusement park with my in-laws. I'm planning to make a special homemade lunch with Olivia. I'm looking forward to it.